thinking, punk. Question is, can I get Wolverine before he turns me into shish kebab with those claws? Bob, seeing as how these claws are adamantium, the strongest metal known, and can slice through vanadium steel like a hot knife through butter, buddy, you gotta ask yourself, do I feel lucky?
Hello, everyone. Thanks so much for joining me here today as we get to talk about one of my favorite subjects, comic books. My name is Jose. I love comic books. I love talking about them. I love sharing them with you. Feel free to follow me on social media if you would like. Links are in the description below. I've also posted a link to the Marvel fan site that I have plot synopsis and character bios for this issue. Wolverine Revenge, the Red Band Edition, number 3, written by Jonathan Hickman and drawn by Greg Capullo with Tim Townsend here. This, based on what I've seen so far, is an alternate universe type thing. This does not look to be anything taking place in the normal Marvel universe. So I have been enjoying this series very well. So here we go. All right. We see here. By the way, I have a playlist with the first 2 issues, so feel free to check them out. Documents. Have your documents ready, and here you can see a group of people here. If you don't have transit authorization, you better have gold because your paper money is no good here. Without one or the other, no one gets on the boat. My advice, don't waste either because this isn't the trip you want to make. We are not headed south. And she asks, where are you going? And the guards here say, across the sea, through the Strait of Gibraltar, gun running. Right now, 100,000 bodies are floating in the Med, and it ain't gonna stop. So unless you have some real business there, or some angel looking to save you, I suggest you wait for the next ship. And finally, Wolverine comes through and says, I'll say this for you. You're a hell of a salesman, and you really sold me on the idea. I'll take the ride. And he says, maybe I wasn't clear enough. And Wolverine says, you were. Now hear me. I do have real business there. So, of the unfinished kind. So I'm getting on this boat. And if you plan on taking the trip with me, I'd step aside. So I also enjoy the fact that he's making Wolverine be short, which is what he's supposed to be here. And you can see Wolverine sort of with that scar in his face here. So here's the boat, and Wolverine's just sitting there. You can see that a little bit of time is passing by here. As Wolverine just now, you can see him getting off the ship here and walking with the population, and everyone's just kind of staring at him. Again, I like the size difference here. So, all right, and Wolverine heading up the mountains. And here you see nuclear reactor. He's like, all this for a little fire, he says. And so we got our credits here. Jonathan Hickman, Greg Capullo with Tim Townsend. So, and then here it gives you kind of what happened, but, you know, I've already covered all that, so. And so Wolverine says, something ain't right. It's burning too bright. And then he continues here. Now, why is the most valuable power source on the planet, one worth death and murder and betrayal, left unprotected to run hot and melt down? And he says, or maybe it's not, as he sniffs there, and suddenly you can see here something's catching his foot here, tossing him, and here we have Omega Red. Well, well, says Omega Red. Look what winter has brought. The dead live again, he says as he tosses Wolverine. And Omega Red continues, do you crave pain, comrade? Is that what's called, is that what called you here, back from the dark? And Wolverine answers, pain is nothing on the road to revenge, pal. And you, he says. So as they kind of stare at each other, you're just a speed bump. So as Wolverine charges Omega Red. And Omega Red uses his not tentacles. What would you call them? Oh, whatever you call them. He hurls them in there. And what are you, a relic of a more fair world? Says Omega Red. If so, then you have no place here, Wolverine. Omega Red continues. You see, the power source was incompatible with the furnace. But we have a fire, but only for a much shorter term, he explains. Wolverine kind of making sounds here. Oh, and that burning you feel, that's the plague in your guts, the last gift you'll ever get from Omega Red, he says. And Wolverine now starts digging in and cutting them, hurting Omega Red. So, and Wolverine says, yeah, I can feel it. And here, I like that in silhouette. Go ahead, infect me with everything you can. I'll take it all and endure every bit of it, says Wolverine, just so I can put my hands around your neck. One last time. So, finally, you can see the crack here. And Wolverine's like, huffing here because he's a little bit tired. That took a little bit of effort here. And so Wolverine continues, I suppose if this place is melting down, I should leave some kind of warning sign if anyone gets close. So you can see him pulling Omega Red here and throwing that tentacle there. And he says, there, that should do the trick. And hangs Omega Red right there as Wolverine walks towards the reactors here. So you can, if you remember there, Omega Red had said there it's not nuclear energy, so something's up. So he's like, Wolverine says, yeah, of course. And so he looks up and he starts to climb it here. And he gets to the top here and he's like, Hurf. And he's like, what? No flowers? Says Deadpool here. As he's sitting there. And Wolverine says, oh, I had some time. But they died along the way, like almost everything else on this godforsaken planet. And Deadpool says, sure, I feel bad about that. And then Deadpool continues, I mean, as much as someone can feel bad about an EMP that they really didn't have anything to do with, it's a bummer, man, a total downer. And I feel that, he says. And so Wolverine says, what's wrong with the reactor, Wade? And Deadpool says, I don't know, bad wiring, Russian engineering, maybe it was just a stupid plan anyway. After they installed it, it was leaking radiation every week or so. But now she's got an upset tummy and is belching fallout every 20 minutes. You'll see. And Wolverine asks, so why are you here? And Deadpool says, can I be honest? And Wolverine answers, sure. Deadpool says, I feel terrible about what I did. I mean, maybe I could live with it if everything turned out okay, but it doesn't look like that's going to be happening. I chose poorly, which is nothing new, but I normally do a pretty good job of getting over regret or just pushing the pain down until I forget that it's there. But not this time. It's too much. So real quick, I just want to make, I've been noticing these kind of things, and they look like similar to what John Romita and Klaus Janson when they ink. They're very thick. So and I had started to notice that here. So do you guys sort of see sort of these ink lines? They're very John Romita Jr.-esque. So anyway, we continue here. So Wolverine says, well, I suppose that settles it then. And Deadpool says, what's that? The argument that people like you and I never pay for our sins, that we just heal and move on, as they both sit at the top. Yeah, no getting past this one. Sorry. Let me try again. Yeah, no getting past this one, is there? He says, no, I don't think so. And Wolverine Sorry, not yet. And Deadpool says, "Okay then, time to end the show, I suppose," he says. "Any clever last words, Deadpool, before you swan dive into oblivion?" And then he answers himself. "No, wait, I think we've said enough. Plenty enough for far too long," he says. "See you on the other side," says Deadpool. "Sorry I blew up your friends." And Wolverine holds them. And he says, "Hold on." And he's like, "Huh? Sorry, I just can't watch you do this," says Wolverine. And Deadpool says, "You mean you don't want me to die?" And Wolverine says, "I'm saying that isn't the answer." And Deadpool says, "Oh my God, please tell me you want us to team up one last time. We could right all the wrongs in an R-rated kind of way. You think you could handle something like that?" says Deadpool. And Wolverine says, "I took care of Mastermind, Sabretooth, and Omega Red, so you know where I'm headed next, don't you?" he says. "Yes, and I'm in, baby. Let's get this death metal tour started." And Wolverine says, "Hey Wade, yeah. Do you really think someone who's done all the things we've done can be forgiven?" And you can see that the radiation is starting to get there. And Wade's Wade says, "Yeah, you know what? I guess I do." And Wolverine says, "I don't," and pushes him after all that. He wanted to get Deadpool's hopes up, but thus we get, as Wolverine watches him burn. Oh my goodness gracious. And so it says here, 1 week later, the sun's coming up, and Wolverine's digging a grave here, and he's all healed up. And suddenly he hears this chunk, and he comes up and smells. And then he says, "I know you see me in there, not like I'm trying to hide. So how are we gonna do this? You coming out, or you gonna make me come in?" As he kind of smiles here. And here comes Colossus. "Hello, Logan," he says. "Petey," says Wolverine. I love the size difference. I really do. And Wolverine says, "Call me crazy, but I think you've gotten bigger." And he says, "No, Tovarish. Through the years, we have all gotten smaller," he says here. "It's nice here. Peaceful," says Wolverine. "A good place for things to end, one way or the other." And Colossus sighs. "Go home, Logan. I have no wish for things to end like this." And Wolverine says, "Don't have a home anymore. And that's 'cause of you. Is there someone in the house?" Asks Wolverine. You can see Colossus turning. He says, "Yes." And Wolverine says, "Well, I'll make sure to mark your grave so they know where to find you." And Colossus says, "Could you have ever imagined that it would come to this?" This is Greg Capullo is such a good artist as Wolverine pops his claws here. "I tell you the truth, pal." And you see the snicked. "All I can imagine now is you 6 feet under, and we're gonna have a little battle here, sort of." And Colossus grabs his head and tosses him 6 feet. "I think we can do better than that," as he throws him out there, and he hits that tree and gets impaled by it. "Woof," he says. And so Colossus jumps sort of hulkish here and lands here. You can see the impact. "Now, Logan, let's finish this," he says. "Why'd you do it, Petey?" says Wolverine. The others, no surprise there, even Wade. "But you were the best of us," says Wolverine as he slashes here, and you can see him take out a chunk of Colossus here. "Sometimes you have to pick a side, even allies that you despise, because it's what's best for your family." And Wolverine says, "I was your family." Oh, and so he holds him here, and holds him. He says, "Niet, you were my friend, and that was not enough," says Colossus, and he tears out his arm here. Wolverine screams. And Colossus says, "I'm sorry it ended this way." And Wolverine kind of just looks at him and says, "Yeah, me too." And suddenly snicked through his head. Look at that. Oh my goodness gracious. So he holds on, grabs his arm and attaches it back. Remember, he's got a healing factor here. And then he sighs here. And oh my goodness gracious, look at this. And so he picks up Colossus here. And he's gonna, let's see, deposit him in the grave. And he says, "And now it's done. Next issue, peace." So, Wolverine, Revenge, the Red Band Edition number 3. Jonathan Hickman, Greg Capullo with Tim Townsend. What do you guys think? The neat thing about this is the story is meh, but the art is awesome. I love Greg Capullo. Everything Greg Capullo does is beautiful. Look at this, just using white for the grass there. That's pretty cool. So, all right, like and subscribe. I do thank you for listening. Goodbye.